Donna Adelson is back in court for a pre-trial hearing. She is doing it Zoom, so we will be watching her Zoom today. And I don't think that there was a lot that they went over. It's pretty short, but I figured might as well keep up with what's going on. She has another one set for May, and her trial is coming up soon. Coming up soon. I'm going to go ahead and move myself to the corner. I already have it ready to play. And it'll be interesting to see if she talks about any more jail issues, because her last big hearing that had to do in person was about that. Okay. Move myself back. All right, let me know as usual if you need the sound up or down, but I'm going to go ahead and start it.
Mrs. Adelson, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Right, we can hear you clearly in the courtroom as well. Your counsel or counsels are with me in the courtroom as well as the state. Mr. Zellman or Ms. Fulford, whoever would like to go first, or Ms. Dugan.
Your Honor, first thing I want to address, I think it was last week, the week before, Your Honor issued the order concerning the prior investigator. When we were first before the court in December, we were told that the defense would have the benefit of what already occurred. I certainly understand the conflict issues, but our client is being punished and prejudiced in her ability to defend herself, not based on her actions, but on the actions of her former attorneys. It's our understanding that one of the things that the investigator did was travel down to South Florida, take pictures, identify times of travel. We don't have those materials, and we're asking for an exception to the court's order to get those materials, not his reports that he generated from interviewing individuals.
The raw materials.
Just the photographs and those specific notes. And if we want to do it in process where Your Honor makes sure that that's all that's being transmitted to us, fine, but otherwise our client's going to have to go to the expense of hiring somebody to do that same exact task.
Problem with this, Mr. Zellman, is if in any way the conflict bleeds over, that compromises the trial itself. The whole point of stopping the trial because of the conflict was not to have to do this a second time. Your client did select who she wanted to represent her. There is a conflict issue tied up in that. At this point, untangling all that is ensnared by the conflict presents more issues. Does the state wish to be heard?
Would defer to your ruling since you did the in-camera review, Judge.
As to whether any raw materials that were obtained by the investigator could be used, I will give this additional consideration. However, any report that he has made that remains subject to the ruling, him assisting with the defense remains subject to the ruling. Other matters that you need to address, go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. In December, you entered the order setting court proceeding dates and procedures.
Yes,
I've conferred with the state and we have a few requests for changes in those.
go ahead.
With respect to the discovery deadline, which is now set for Wednesday, April 30th of 2025, we would like the order to be amended, if Your Honor agrees, to say that deadline will remain. The exception would be if the parties agree to depositions outside of that date. We've had some problems with getting some depositions scheduled when everyone is available. We already have one set in May 14th, so we would like just the opportunity to hold depositions past April 30th if everyone is in agreement.
Ms. Dugan.
No objection.
Very well, the deadline will remain in place. As to whether this would affect any motions that would need to be heard, that would occur once the issue presents itself, but you may schedule the deposition if you need to.
Thank you, Judge. We also were requesting that because of the discovery issues, that we extend the pretrial motion filing deadline to May the 9th and to presenting the final witness and exhibit list to May the 13th. And the state had no objection to that either.
Ms. Dugan.
No objection.
Those dates then will be moved as requested by the parties.
Thank you, Judge.
Any other matters the defense needs to raise?
Your Honor, we had previously submitted a proposed order concerning the wealth evidence, and we had
Yes.
addressed it by email with your judicial assistant in the state. And Your Honor indicated that we would address it here this morning. The purpose of submitting that is so that there is complete clarity on the court's ruling, that there's not an issue. We are not trying to get into a situation where we're having to seek a mistrial.
As to that, I reviewed the original order and also what was proposed. They didn't exactly coincide. Is there something in particular that you believe needs to be clarified based from the original order?
I don't think that there is. I think that there's a difference in opinion as to what the court's order meant.
I reviewed the transcript on that as well, and I believe as it went to the state presenting any evidence of motive, or specifically that Mrs. Adelson was somehow involved with the offer of money relating to the, I believe, relocation of the children, that evidence would be permitted as far as any general evidence concerning her money, such as what her net worth was on a particular date. That was not going to be presented. But again, as it relates to presenting evidence on motive, that would be presented. What is unclear about this?
I think that clears up the potential confusion, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Dugan, do you need to be heard on this point?
No, sir.
We've already filed 2 additional motions in limine. There are at least 7 more that we are still working on, and we are hoping to get filed in the next few weeks. When we were here last, I had indicated that there was another motion to suppress. I'd hoped to file previously, but given the depositions that are scheduled, I want to wait until after those, in the middle of April, to get that filed, just to solidify some of the testimony. So that will be filed before the end of April.
Right. As to the motion in limine concerning the use of the book for impeachment, are the parties capable of handling this matter today?
I'm not prepared for that.
We can, I believe that the state stance is that much of that has already been heard before as well, but we could get with your assistant and set a time for that to be heard.
Go ahead, so that way that matter can be resolved somewhat quickly, I believe, compared to the other motions, but there should be, let me look at the calendar. Probably handle either a 30-minute or 45-minute motion on that. Even this week, if all parties are capable of handling it. State defense.
Just looking at my calendar, Your Honor, it looks like I'd be available. I could make myself available almost anytime Thursday and anytime Friday.
Ms. Dugan,
That should work. Maybe Thursday afternoon, we could set something. If I could get with Ms. Kappelman and we'll email Lynn this afternoon, would that be okay?
contact Lynn to see what time on Thursday we can go ahead and address the issue
Sir.
Yes, sir.
of the book.
Yes, sir. And then lastly, on the venue issue, we have the materials from our expert. I was hoping to file it last night, but still finishing putting all of the materials together. We also have spoken with the state about their position on filing those materials under seal. That motion to file under seal and the proposed order is already done. I could submit those today when I get back to the office. And then the materials themselves, I'd like to say tonight, but realistically, probably tomorrow.
Please file them as soon as you're capable. If there is no dispute from the state concerning whether it's under seal, you may do so.
Ms. Kappelman indicated yesterday that there was no objection from the state, so that portion's already resolved.
Very well. Do the parties need another case management before we get to the more substantive dates and the orders?
State does not.
Your Honor, at this point, I don't think that we do. If something arises that we cannot work out amongst ourselves and we need to get court intervention, we will certainly contact your judicial assistant.
Well, let me briefly look at the order that was previously set. We're setting all of the dates and deadlines. But the pretrial is already preset by order for 5/16 at 9 o'clock. That will be the next date in which the matter will be addressed outside of any other motions. Unless either party has anything further to address, we'll be in recess for this case.
Sir.
No,
Thank
sir.
you, Your Honor.
That is the
Okay.
conclusion of the hearing. Have a good afternoon.
So, just a reminder that, yeah, she was one of the main people playing a role when her daughter, Wendy Adelson, and Dan Markel, they divorced. She wanted to be able to move her kids to Miami area. It was closer to her family. Dan Markel said no, and it became a very bad, bitter battle between the couple. To the point that Donna Adelson then got involved and would write Dan and just try to forcibly have it happen, and it wasn't working. And that is how this all stemmed and started. Somebody in the chat said, wasn't she arrested at the airport? I do have that in my videos. Yes, she was, and it is still pretty enjoyable to watch. And even seeing it, I think I've probably watched it like 10 times. I still find it pretty enjoyable to watch. She was completely shocked that they had showed up as she was trying to leave. She got a one-way ticket to a country that doesn't expedite people back for things like this, and she was trying. It didn't work. We do know her husband is still in Florida. Wendy is now in southern Texas. A lot of people think it's because she wants to be close to the southern border to get into Mexico if she needs to, but that's speculation. They talked briefly just now about depositions, and one thing that her trial has that her son Charlie's didn't have is the deposition of her older son, Rob. And that is going to be very interesting because when all of this started going down, right when it happened that Dan Markel was murdered, he isolated himself from this family, all of them. He refused to contact them and be a part of anything involving them because he thought something was up. He thought his family had something to do with it, and he was right. They did. So he had his deposition taken, and that will be seemingly involved in Donna's, and it was not in Charlie's. So very interesting. It's going to be a very crazy but interesting trial whenever this starts, and they were trying so hard to get her to have the trial waived, and it is not happening. So it's coming. Dates keep getting moved back. She had to get a new lawyer. That's some things that were talked about just now. They're still lining everything up and still doing depositions, as well as more pretrial hearings will happen, but we will be here for all of it, and we will be watching the trial every single day. It's going to be huge, I think. And having seen Charlie's trial, there's so much of that will be used in Donna's trial. So stay tuned. But the next time she is back for a pretrial hearing is May 16th, and we will be watching it. So thank you for watching, and until next time.